So many good South Florida things to talk about, interesting South Florida things to talk about, Stugotz. But before we get to the Marlins' first playoff game in an electricity that baseball deserves, God, what a delight to watch those uniforms in that atmosphere where people care rabidly about baseball as a sport, unlike Florida, where Tampa, a great baseball team.
Disgusting.
A great baseball team gets 19,000 for a game because Florida sucks so bad at baseball. Just as a state, we can't be worse. Philadelphia appreciates what it is, the Marlins, to make the playoffs and are trying to club their heads in with Nick Castellanos and Bryce Harper and enraging Greg Cody. Greg Cody has now gotten into the game, longtime Homer columnist for the Miami Herald. He is going after, in that game, Nick Castellanos and Phillies fans because of a left index finger, middle finger controversy. Can we put up the tweet of Greg Cody that has now enraged all of Philadelphia because he refers to him by name, Stugotz.
Wow. Dangerous.
Hey, Nick. And he says, you're on national TV. Middle finger or ring finger, not a good look. That's the ring finger because he wants to win a championship because he hit a double because he really cares about beating the Marlins in October.
I got goosebumps. I mean, I did.
Holds
up the ring finger.
What is Cody doing there?
I don't know.
Explain what your
Being
father
old.
is doing there.
Yeah.
He's a believer in sportsmanship. That wasn't even the most offensive thing that the Phillies were doing. They were also, every time they got a hit, they were the thing when you have huge balls.
Right.
Like that's their celebration. I felt like the ring finger was like the least controversial thing they did yesterday.
I had no idea they had 3 J.J. Watts on their team. I mean, this guy, Baum, Marsh, and Harper, all 3 of them. Harper, first off, when you're rounding second, throwing off the batting helmet so you can show everyone your hair.
It's a great move.
And the red, white, and blue bandana, the American
It's
flag.
a great move.
It's J.J. Watts is what it is.
But it's so good.
Come on.
It is so good. If he could come around first base and just put himself in the American flag and then slide head first into second base. Bryce Harper is rebellion. You're making him the establishment. He's a personality that brings life to baseball because people actually hate him.
Keep your helmet on.
Okay.
I mean, seriously.
A baseball player enough to make Stugotz care enough to hate. When all of us would love to round first base with flowing hair and our country's pride on our forehead.
Don't we ask for personality in this sport? Isn't Bryce Harper like the ultimate example of that? Look, I want to hate on the
Get your
Phillies
own
this morning.
personality, okay? Not J.J.
Don't steal
Watts.
J.J. Watts.
Yes.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I guess that's
All right,
case in point.
put it on the poll, please.
Wait, are you arguing that J.J. Watt is authentic?
No. No, it's a fair point by you.
There's no consistency to this take. All it is, this is what's just happened to Stugotz as he's gotten
I just
entangled
started watching baseball.
in his own meshing. It's not just that. You're not alone. I heard Lewis in the other room say he saw his first baseball game last night, and I think if I turn to Tony right now, I'm not going to get a whole lot of baseball watching.
Dan, I didn't watch last night, but I will tonight, I promise you, because I'm forced to.
I found out last night that Evan Longoria is a Diamondback. He's still out there. Longo.
He's not
playing?
Junior, not
Yeah.
Evan Longoria Jr.
Right.
The real one.
Longo.
Well, Stugotz, you've picked a good time to fall in love with baseball. If you're going to
great.
start, paying attention now, because you're going to be flabbergasted by the skill level. I discovered, I might get his name wrong here, a middle reliever for the Phillies like a month ago, Alvarado.
Jose Alvarado.
So nasty.
He was big last night, yeah.
So the first time I saw him, I'd never seen him pitch before, and like, this is one of the changes in the game I'm fascinated by, and have been fascinated by all season. Alvarado comes into the game, and I know there are a lot of guys like this in the league now, but he is throwing stuff, and I'm like, how is this person not their closer? How does anybody ever hit this person? And Kimbrel's their closer, and I was still saying, why is this dude not their closer? Nobody can hit him. And he's got his whip and his ERA all under 2 and stuff, and he's a little inconsistent with where he places the 98-mile-an-hour filthiest shit I've ever seen stuff. 7th inning for that dude last night, because once you get into that bullpen, you're going to have a problem. That guy can't be hit, and somebody will hit a giant bomb off him because they do it to Puck all the time. And some of these guys that are throwing pitches that I've never seen before are playing in an offensive age of all or nothing that makes the games fast and exciting because you can't help but just marvel at the skill level.
Dan, I know I haven't been watching baseball that much, but you're not going to trick me on that one. Jose Alvarado is a guard for the Pelicans.
Yeah.
The Pels.
I don't know how I'm going to get
Can't get me there.
the people around this show to come back to the Marlins. We'll have to drag Mike back.
Right.
Chris Cody.
No, I'm in on Longoria. I think the Rays could use that boost.
I'm furious with Carl Ravitch. That's who my beef is.
He
with
looks
today.
great.
He looks fine.
Too good.
Regardless of what he looks
Too
like.
good.
To
Yeah.
start the broadcast yesterday, we're getting the intros for both teams. His first words about the Marlins after they did like 3 minutes on the Phillies. All right, now let's talk about the Marlins because we have to. Wow. That's what he said, because we have to talk about the Marlins. I was furious. Because you have to. The Marlins made the playoffs.
They earned their way there.
Right.
We have to talk
Just
about
like
the
everyone
Marlins.
else. Yeah.
And the amount of times that he said every seat was filled in this Philly stadium. He was. I'm telling you, he was just talking shit about the Marlins the whole day, and I don't like it.
I don't think I was talking shit. That's been my inner dialogue for 12 years on the local hour. Well, I guess we have to talk about him.
It's been an issue, right? Because this is I've told you before, this has always been my I know it's stupid, but my favorite time of the year has been this time of year, because my first real coverage of anything sports related down here was University of Miami football, and then the first Marlins team, which did pack a stadium with a whole bunch of people who did care, 38,000 strong for a season, and over 30 years of whoring and business and David Samson, they have turned into something that has killed baseball in Florida. Tampa gets 19,000. I'm telling you, Stugotz, that Rays team can beat any team that's ever played, but they lose 4-0 to the Rangers yesterday.
Yep.
That's
how they roll.
But they're good, and they get no home field advantage, 19,000. But you see what's happening in Philadelphia, where the Northeast still embraces that thing. And you saw a baseball game last night, a 4-1 game, not terribly interesting. Electric, just because of how Philadelphia felt about, we got an interesting team. Hey, we spent on Bryce Harper, and you guys laughed at us for a while about that, but now he's our American hero running the bases in a flag bandana.
Keep your helmet on.
They've built a fun team in Philly, and Bryce Harper is sort of the crux of what it is that they're doing, but the skill that you see from that team and from the Marlins when you're watching last night, like the fact that you have A.J. Puck pitching in like the 5th inning when 15 years ago, he would have been the nastiest pitcher you've ever seen. That part of baseball right now, when you're watching the best of the best skill you've ever seen go against each other, it's been really crazy to watch. And look, the Marlins are in a really tough position, but like you mentioned, Chris, like they earned their way there. It's crazy to say, like, let's talk about the Marlins because we have to.
Mike, what's with your face? Why are you making
15
faces?
years ago, Roy Halladay existed. Get
He
outta
didn't
here.
throw 100
With
from the
rest in
left
peace.
side at 6'7".
Have you heard of the big unit?
He's the only
Have you
one.
heard
That's
of the
why
big
he
unit?
existed.
Out of here. 15 years ago, a guy named Puck, who I've watched Marlins baseball 3 times, and that guy gets lit up like a
does.
gas
He does.
can.
Every time.
You're telling me
Every
he's
time.
nastier
But you're
than
saying-
the big unit?
you're saying-
How about you take a nice big long sip of shut the hell up?
Put it
Well
on the
done.
poll. Who had better stuff, the big unit or Puck?
I did not say that.
Just stop for a
I
second.
agree with Jeremy.
No,
Okay.
he did say it.
Zach Greinke was around 15 years ago.
Puck
Is
does
he
have
still
Still is.
around?
He
Puck
still
has
is.
similar
He pitched-
stuff.
He pitched on Sunday.
I'm just talking about stuff.
Puck did?
No.
See, I would love for you to step in the box
What?
against Jeremy Bonderman. I would love to see you.
Bonderman could bring it. That's what the B in Bonderman stands for.
Oh, God.
Bring it.
All right, so this is what I'm saddled with.
I mean, Jeremy just made Puck an ace 15
Hold
years
on.
ago.
I did not.
I mean,
Let's just slow everything down for just a
Ridiculous.
second, because we're going to get to David Samson in a second, because I want to talk Marlins baseball with him and other things. But you guys do realize the way that this show has aged, just so that you know, is Greg Cody is yelling in the middle of that game, hey, put your middle finger or ring finger, put it away, even if it's toward your dugout, bad luck. It's Stugotz over here, joyless Stugotz.
what do you mean?
Well, you saw what you did, because Mike Ryan went into a place where he just said, shut the hell up, as an old person.
No.
A tall glass of shut the hell up.
Take a nice long sip of shut the hell up. But I would never tell someone to shut the hell up. I was just offering a beverage.
We're aging in a way that is stunning to me.
Jeremy Bonderman is a dated reference now?
Just we don't.
You guys should take offense to that.
We don't love
some puck guy being the best hurler in 15 years. Get out of here.
We
man.
don't love baseball.
Mariano Rivera had a cut fastball that no one could hit.
Yeah.
That is true, but it was 10 miles an hour slower than what Puck's throwing out there.
Yeah, but you can hit pucks.
I
mean,
swinging faster now.
They are. Like, that's the part of this, right? It's players guessing in a way that they never had to before because this stuff is so nasty. So they're just picking a pitch and saying, let me pray that my swing path makes contact with this fastball. Like, that's the skill that we're seeing at this point that is so immense that you have guys, like you mentioned, pitching in the 5th, in the 7th inning for these teams that would have been the greatest relievers
Jeremy,
we've seen.
Here's the problem.
Keep somebody off balance, like Scott Kazmir. That's a duel.
Jeremy, here's the problem with you and what it is that you're doing and your enthusiasm for this thing. You don't understand that Mike at every turn is going to meet you with his betrayed, hurt ignorance.
How come he doesn't do this to Lucy with Iowa?
This team, he cared about it. And it hurt him so much that he stopped watching. And now you're trying to convince him, no, that time when you loved baseball, they're even better now. And you are absolutely right. They are a good deal better than anything I've ever seen in my life. Because it's all swing as hard as you can and throw it as hard as you can. And all the charting all over the field, you hit a scathing line drive. That guy's just standing there behind the second base bag because that's where they played you to hit it.
And if this guy's so good, why is he there in the 7th inning? That's your long reliever spot. That's when Burke Badenhop slides in and carries you to your setup man.
The hopper.
Let's play the sound. David Samson here thinks that you don't want him around to talk Marlins baseball, that he soils all things Marlins baseball. Nothing personal is something that he does for the Le Batard and Friends Network. It is a very strong one-man show where he informationally has, I'm telling you, he tackles more stuff than I'm hearing anybody who's doing a one-man show tackles in 50 minutes. And nothing personal. Forgive me, video. I'll get to that in just a second. Has David Samson, let's play that sound less awkwardly.
Very disappointing for all people who think that I'm not rooting for the Marlins. You got it wrong. I was not rooting for Derek Jeter. Now that Derek Jeter's been fired, I want Kim Ng. I want Bruce Sherman. I want the Marlins to succeed. I want them to win a World Series because selfishly, I want to be part of a franchise's legacy that is a successful franchise. A third World Series in as many trips to the playoffs after a 162-game season, that would be a record. The Marlins made the playoffs in 97 as a wild card, won the World Series. They made the playoffs in 03 as a wild card, won the World Series. They made the playoffs in 23 as a wild card. How about it?
How about that is the signature line. It is Stugotz, you cannot have it.
It's not a good record to have.
It's not.
Hey, we make the playoffs. Like 20 years will go by, but don't let us in there. We'll win. If you let us in, we'll win the thing.
Yes.
They just never let us in that.
I mean, Mike, since 97, it's been them, the Yankees, I think the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Giants, and the Red Sox. Those are the teams that have won 2 World Series.
Is Stugotz in, yes or no? Are you in? Are you
baseball,
going to watch Marlins baseball?
Longoria's still playing.
Did you watch last night? Are you going to be stubbornly ignorant the way that Mike Ryan is, where he's like, because I was genuinely curious yesterday. When Greg Cody came in here and he made the argument on behalf of home field advantage, I'm like, what's home field advantage really when Jazz Chisholm is making that throw from center field? Is that crowd bothering him? Because they seem super excited, and he threw out a guy at the plate. So what is really home field advantage in that sport? Tampa didn't do anything yesterday with no home field advantage. Philadelphia did that.
Minnesota had it.
I'm a little upset that I've given you guys this ammunition because I was just going to sit here like I have all season long, silently. But then you called A.J. Puck the best pitcher and the nastiest thing that you would have seen 15 years ago. He would have been the pitcher of the league. And
I'm right. You can do that all you want.
That's when you cross the line.
Jeremy, look, this is the weird thing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's absolutely true. You are both absolutely right.
No,
and it is from the position of me. I've been Mike. I was straddling this fence. I didn't want to care about this team anymore. But the changes that they made to baseball and the skill level that I'm watching, I don't understand how any human being hits puck. His location is not as good as it needs to be. So
Jesus, stop it. Chris Sabo would take that guy to the
So
gap.
he is-
No doubt. It sounds like you agree with Jeremy.
So,
Say it, Dan. Come on.
Just say it.
No,
say
Dan.
it. You think Puck's a number one 15 years
No.
ago?
No,
Let me tell you.
He honestly would have been. Jeremy's right.
Stop it. Jason Kendall would have worked that count. He would have been totally gassed. 25 pitches in.
I mean, Sean
Jason
Markham was a
Kendall-
number 2.
Jason Kendall fouling off 8 consecutive pitches.
No, they
and
all
then
do
guess
that
what?
now.
The 115
No, they
miles
all
per
do-
hour
no,
goes down.
They
the
all
Yankees.
do that now. The number of 13 pitch at bats in that game, in games in general.
Against guys throwing 100 miles an hour
wouldn't
with
have-
tail of 2.5 feet.
Jamie
across
Moyer
the
wouldn't
plate.
sniff the major leagues in
Oh,
today's
that's
baseball.
get out of
That's
here.
crazy.
Get outta
Jamie
here.
Moyer would have like a 15
Oh,
ERA.
Here, he'd be a BP pitcher.
And Vinny Castilla would make sure that Puck never puts on a major league uniform
Only
ever
at
again.
Coors,
Look,
though.
don't get me wrong. I think the way, like, if we want to have a real conversation, the way that we bring up baseball players,
we don't want to
now,
have a real conversation.
It is ruining parts of the game, or did ruin parts of the game for the last 15 years or so. We ended up in this home run, strikeout, walk, 3 choices scenario with baseball that was incredibly boring. They've now fixed the rules to where they're encouraging stolen bases, they're encouraging small ball, but you still get this massive skill. And I just think that they've found the way to bring us back to the nostalgia of those times with players like Jason Kendall without actually having to do it with worse skill.
No, you've got AJ Puck as a puzzle that Mike Hargrove can't solve, and that's where you lose me.
Exactly.
It's Zagacki. I am so.
I bet you in 1997 you'd be like, oh, Andy Ashby, no answers for that guy. We do this every generation.
Before we get to Marlins baseball with David Samson, there were a couple of other things locally, Stugotz, that I wanted to talk about because Samson will be here shortly.
All right.
But are you aware of who is number 1 in the BCS rankings that nobody cares about anymore, but they are the BCS rankings as of today? Do you care who's number 1?
I mean, not really, but I'll guess.
Go ahead.
Alabama.
Keep going. Just keep guessing.
I
It's the
believe
wrong BCS.
Alabama is 24, according
Go
to
ahead.
the
What?
BCS
Stugotz, just
formula.
keep guessing. We'll tell you when you get there. Number 1, according to the current BCS. Please don't look on your computer. It
I
would
mean,
ruin the game.
I'm not.
Just
I don't-
pick schools.
I wouldn't even know where to
Just
find the
pick
BCS.
schools.
BowlChampionshipSeries.com.
I just-
No, wait,
touched my
BowlChampionshipSeries.go.com.
Stugotz, just start naming teams.
Georgia.
Okay.
Lyco search Bowl Championship Series.
Georgia's not number 1.
USC.
Not number 1.
They're not?
No,
Oh, my God. This is insane. North Carolina.
not number 1.
They're not?
No.
Huh. Let me think. Florida State. Has to be Florida State.
Not number 1.
Think
Get outta
impressive
here.
wins.
Think no, not really.
I'm just
One-
thinking undefeated.
one
Not
impressive
really.
No, you can think impressive wins.
Except Alabama.
No, an impressive win that only became more impressive 2 or 3 weeks later.
Well, yeah, when you take the problem with college football is the preseason rankings, which the Bowl Championship Series has very little time for. It's us.
Fresno State.
It's us. It's the mighty Miami Hurricanes.
What?
Him making another guess after you said it's us.
I didn't believe him the first time.
Mikey Keenan, them boys.
The University of Miami.
That's crazy. Come
After
on.
beating
They
Miami.
haven't played anyone.
Well, no.
A Texas A&M win is a good one.
Miami of Ohio is not bad, and the
Miami, Ohio.
Stugotz, I will tell you that if you're not watching this stuff, and I don't think you are,
Okay.
Miami of Ohio's coach saying after playing Miami, physically that hurt. My people are broken. They broke us physically, and now you watch them play other games, and you're like, oh, other teams don't break Miami of Ohio physically. Miami of Ohio, yeah, we'll laugh at them forever. What? They're not playing good football there. It's Miami of Ohio. But Miami wrecked everybody that's been put in front of them, and Texas A&M now doing that to that defense suggests to Stugotz, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe you go to North Carolina. Maybe Georgia Tech beats you. I don't know. But they're going to be good at offense because Texas A&M is good at defense, and it didn't matter against Miami.
Texas A&M has played 2 SEC schools since playing Miami. They played Auburn and Arkansas, and they've surrendered 11 offensive points since that Miami matchup. Those are 2 legacy schools, schools with prestige, schools that are not bad. this year. I know the win-loss record in the SEC for Arkansas isn't great, but they've had close games. That Texas A&M win is a good one, and it doesn't look that good because I believe Texas A&M right now is presently unranked. They play Alabama. That'll be a nice little measuring stick for the people that do the paint-by-numbers stuff of do it against Bama.
Everyone will laugh at you in this. Trust Temple, Miami of Ohio. Who have they played? Texas A&M was 5-6 last year, and Jimbo's never got a quarterback.
Miami, Ohio did beat Cincinnati.
You'll be nervous going to North Carolina, though, right?
I think
you will be.
I'm nervous this weekend. Look at it was just last year where they were losing to Middle Tennessee State. I think while there are encouraging signs, injuries could totally nuke this season. Georgia Tech looked like a good team, and then they lost straight up as a 21-point favorite. But we're not in the position to be taking anybody lightly and just chalk up dubs on the board. This is
number one.
This isn't cocky Canes fan time. But there are some really encouraging things about Miami's performances this year. The way that they're winning games that the BCS has picked up on, which, by the way, BCS, towards the tail end of its run, actually got it kind of right. And we just wanted more teams playing for the thing. But the way, think about where we've gone with the BCS is, no, we want humans to do it when we actually had computers figuring all this stuff out. Now, they made terrible mistakes early on, but by the end of its run, it did have a good idea of who should be playing for stuff.
As Mr. 2017 UCF guy who would have defended the BCS until the end of the earth because UCF was number one that year, I will tell you, looking into the formula, those final few years, the teams at the top were right. It was just about exclusion of opportunity for other teams where we really just needed a 4-team or an 8-team playoff potentially based off those rankings. The rankings are not far off. It is killing me, though, that we're referring to rankings 4 weeks into the season for the University of Miami after
only because Miami's number one.
Well, it's killing me. We're using Miami of Ohio as a benchmark.
Totally.
I see Mike has their game log up here. He's trying to find another good win on that schedule.
There's only been a couple games, but that's not the point.
Texas A&M.
We had AI rankings before we had AI rankings. We went away from them, and now we're going to probably go to them in the future again.
Well, what we have is when I said BCS, it's Billy Chris Stugotz. If they were creating the rankings for this show, it would be Miami number one, and the argument being, yeah, you dragged Temple. Congratulations.
I'm not going to.
What do you mean Miami? What do you mean the U is back? Really? Because you beat the other Miami, the one no one ever cares about beating.
I mean, the Texas A&M victory was impressive. When you look at their defensive numbers, that's a really good defensive team, and Miami carved right through them. But I'm not going to be guilty of issuing rat poison when it comes to Miami.
Do you
I'm
really
not gonna do that?
Do you really feel like you have the best team in the country? Be honest.
No.
Okay,
But
good.
Stugotz, this
check it.
But I do think that
No.
they're presently underrated because people are underrating the
That's
Texas
fair.
A&M
No.
thing,
Okay.
and I do think that people put far too much weight on preseason rankings. It's ridiculous, some of these preseason rankings. Why are some of these teams ahead of Miami and Texas A&M? Because, they enter unranked. It's bullshit.
I will go a step further than Mike is going because he is not being cocky, and he's actually trying to be rational, even though we're exploring the stupidity of Miami as the number one team in the country as a starting point. And everyone would look at that schedule and say they have not beaten anybody. And perhaps what I am seeing, because I can't do the measurements when you're doing it to Bethune-Cookman, perhaps Georgia Tech's defensive line or North Carolina's defensive line has something that Texas A&M's didn't. But I'd be willing to bet every game this season that Miami will be able to get offense because if Van Dyke is healthy, he will have time to throw. And even though I'm unimpressed by their wide receivers by the standard of the glory days when they had Perriman and Blades and Irvin in their huddle, but when they were Alabama, when they had all the first-round picks, I don't think that's what they have at receiver, but that quarterback will be accurate and make good decisions if he has time. And I don't know if they could do it to everybody, but the NIL people who bought that offensive line say they feel like it can do that to anybody.
Well, what's a good measuring stick is Texas A&M. If you could do it against Texas A&M, which if you eliminate the 48 points that Miami put up there, even if you include that, look at the defensive metrics that they put
Turnovers
up.
in that game put Texas A&M in point position.
That's an elite defense that Miami just totally carved through and spotted
I think they'll
14
be able.
points.
I don't know who's going to make them stop doing that if it's not going to be injuries. I'd like to know. I'd like to see where it is.
They gave up 33 in that game as well, though.
I know, but he just said the point totals
but it
where
was
they
special
starting
teams.
the starting field position. It was other
there was
stuff.
a block
33
punt.
spot is a 33 spot. I mean, that's it.
Stugotz, they muffed a punt and they had a punt blocked.
Yeah.
That was 14 points easy right there.
Okay.
David Samson joins us now. Again, I will tell you less awkwardly than before that David Samson's Nothing Personal is covering a lot of terrain. I don't know how people are talking about the Trevor Bauer story. I imagine a whole lot of people are scared of that story. So I'd like to talk about that with him today. But the place I wanted to start was with Marlins baseball and how you personally feel, how all of this personally feels to you in the ways that actually move you about sports, because you are a part of the building of whatever this was. You dreamt that baseball could feel in Miami the way that it did in Philadelphia last night, and we laughed at you, and we were right to laugh at you because Miami never embraced it like that after 2003. How do you feel as someone who's protected the legacy of this franchise and torched Mike Ryan's fandom? How did you feel watching last night?
So I spoke to my son about this exact topic last night after the Phillies-Marlins game, and he asked me honestly who I was rooting for, and I answered him, and I want to answer you exactly the same way. After I left the Marlins in 2017 when Jeter jettisoned me, I rooted against him and against the Marlins every game. I didn't want him to succeed because I wanted to look better for my reign, and if he succeeded, it would be at the expense of what I did. Once he was fired, I then felt better about rooting for the Marlins. Going into the playoffs in September, I still was not rooting for them to make the playoffs. And I want to explain why. Because I wanted, and this is being totally open, I wanted to be the last president to have a team in the playoffs after a full season. It was just ego. It was just about me. I wanted to be the one, and I didn't want my legacy to be changed or forgotten. Then, when the Marlins clinched, I had a different epiphany, and I then wanted them to beat Philly in this round because I want people to experience a playoff game at Marlins Park differently than people are experiencing a playoff game in Tampa, where only 19,000 people showed up to game one of their series against the Rangers. And my view is I want to beat Philly so then we can have home games in the next round against the Braves. And Marlins Park will be sold out. The upper deck will be open. And then, still ego, people will say, wow, I am having a memory. Even if it's not Mike Ryan, I'm having a moment here. And that's because there's a ballpark here. And I know somewhere deep in my mind, I know that David may have had something to do.
So this is all about you,
Right.
is what we're saying.
Not buying it either. Yeah.
No, I'm absolutely admitting that it was about me, and I'm going through the different paths that I had in terms of cheering or not cheering for the Marlins. Keep in mind, there's no one left from my time there. No players are left, and there's very, very few staff members left. And the ballpark does look a little different to me. But I really want everyone to have a home playoff game and feel what that's like.
Don't you want to be the last Marlins president that won a World Series? I mean,
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
I would like actually our franchise to keep the record going. I think it'd be way cooler to be a part of, hey, we don't lose playoff series. Forget 2020, the COVID year. When the Marlins make the playoffs, they win the World Series. So if they can win the World Series this year, that would be 97, 03, and 23, never having lost a series, 3 rings, and that would mean that you're part of a very, very special franchise.
Dave, talking about thinking of you when I go to the stadium, I did. So I went to the Marlins game that was the Flannies night against the Braves where they won, and I was thinking to myself as I was walking the corridors of the stadium, I was
Great
like,
promotion, giving
Thank you.
away those cups.
Yeah, it was.
Ballpark promotions
best,
do
yeah.
not get
it was
better than
electric in there, by the way.
Lazy cups.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Or at least right about that. We'll get to that in a second. But
What's
Dave,
wrong with lazy cups?
we needed better. Dave, I thought of you because I was like, wow, underneath this behemoth in Little Havana, somewhere, and he won't tell us where, David Samson hid a time capsule. And that's the only thing I could think of. I was like, David Samson has things in here. I got to find them.
It is going to be so hard for you to find them. There is no way for you to find them until the entire ballpark gets blown up disco style.
Wasn't it also a Native American burial ground and you guys couldn't build there for a little bit? So, like, is it next to those remains that you just built on top of anyways?
Great question. No, there was a rumor. And
Why
a
did you
thought
even?
and a
Why did you
concern.
smile at that, David Sampson? You put your head down. Rarely
Smirk.
do you feel a bullet go by your head that you were not expecting there. You got hit.
Dodged it.
You got hit with a Native American burial ground. Billy, welcome to the show.
That's a good
Guns
one,
blazing.
Hey, you didn't see him come in with it. Look, man, he's going to get 18 hours to celebrate these Marlins for his fandom for 20 years. And if it means he has to shoot bullets at your head while you're on.
It's a question. That's a thing.
So there was a discussion and negotiation about the possibility of it having been an Indian burial ground, a Native American burial ground, excuse me. And we didn't want to pay because if that happens, you have to shut everything down and look for bones. So your timeline gets blown up and you could end up being over budget and not on time. So every time we would dig, because there's excavation before you build, we'd be looking over and there'd be like the back hoe and the front hoe. Hey, any cracks? Find anything? And of course, we never found anything as far as anyone knows.
Okay. That last, that last part of
Stuck the landing,
Wait a
man. You
minute.
stuck the landing.
No, wait
damn
a
it.
minute. Wait a minute. That little disclaimer.
Kick some dirt over
no,
that.
half a sentence. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I don't
So
see
well done.
anything over there.
Hold on
even
a
like hyena.
second. Hold on a second.
What?
Yeah, as far as anyone knows, that half sentence that you lawed your way into and you draped yourself in, after all of that, I want an honest admission here. If anyone does know, and there was an active cover-up by someone in your organization, because what a horror it would have been if you built that ballpark without caring about human remains.
I'm just saying that in Miami, especially at the Orange Bowl, how can you really know? Right? Is it
a good point.
An animal?
It's fair.
Is it a person?
It's
Is
Little
it a
Havana.
Native American?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
No, that's not.
That's a bad
That's
point.
a terrible point. What bones were found?
And just keep in mind, we're headed into Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday.
What?
Mike,
Company holiday?
That was what?
can we get
For
a day
some.
off?
For some.
Can you please
Not for me.
confirm or deny that bones were found?
I have no independent recollection of anything out of the ordinary happening. I have no independent recollection of
go. Say it
anything out of
again.
the
Yeah,
ordinary
yeah.
being discovered during the excavation of the Orange Bowl site.
Okay. So, Billy, you just
Are you
careened.
reading that? by the
Yes,
way?
yes.
You're
a couple,
looking
well, he's
at
got that. He's got that disclaimer underneath his computer for moments like that, where he could lie brazenly to her face and just cover
No
it up.
recollection.
No, he
Very
would
good.
be a misery in deposed. Oh, God, would you hate deposing him?
I've been deposed so many
Oh,
times.
not. I
You
mean,
probably enjoy it.
you probably do. You enjoy it?
I don't mind it.
You're not afraid of it.
I'm not afraid of it.
Right.
Nothing to hide.
Oh. I mean,
as far
anyone
as
knows that.
anyone
I
knows.
mean,
As
You can't
far-
hide things if you close your
No, I
eyes.
have nothing to hide.
It seems understandable that with all of that ego you were talking about, somewhere in there, you would be brokenhearted because you did love baseball, you cared about baseball, and how that happened with Jeter, even though you walked away with all the money and some bones, possibly, if anyone knows. You had your identity tied up in this team, this organization, and that job. And you watching this team succeed while you've been to how many games since? You used to go every single night. You've been to no games. You haven't been back to the ballpark one time
I've not been to any ballpark since I walked out after the final game of the 17th
because it
season.
hurts too much or what?
Because I'm scared of feeling ordinary.
You don't want to go to a ballpark and not be the president?
I don't want to go to the ballpark and not be able to walk wherever I want to walk and go wherever I want to go and speak to whoever I want to speak to. I mean, you're asking for honest answers, and I do give honest answers. They just may hurt, and Mike Ryan may be unhappy with the likability quotient.
No.
But that
I
is
actually agree
real
with you. It's the
answer.
same reason that I don't go.
right. And now you have to pay. I mean,
Well, I probably wouldn't have to pay. But
Yeah, you
that's not the issue.
What
And
is
I
the-
would pay.
But
It's
explain
not
to me
that.
the emotions of it, and explain to me if the Marlins,
am.
if the Marlins have a playoff game, you would want to go.
I got texted by Marlins man last night. I texted him and asked him, "Why are you in Milwaukee?"
yeah, he was at the wrong game. Right.
But he was at the wrong game. I mean, you're a Marlins fan. How could you not be in Philadelphia wearing your Marlins jersey?
Cheaper
and he
tickets?
Said he had plans, et cetera, et cetera. He said, let's go to a game. It's time for you to get back into the ballpark. There's other people I know who sit in the Diamond Club who've invited me, including some Native Americans who have season tickets, have invited me.
They were looking for their property, Brack.
And I just don't have it in me yet. It hurts. I admit that. It's another thing that I was speaking to Caleb about, Dan, last night, was about the hurt that it is to watch everything continue on without you, thinking that you were important, thinking that that was your identity, and then finding a different way to satiate your professional ego, your personal ego, your sense of self, all of those things that I didn't know whether I would experience, I did. And I work at that every day to work through it, and I'm not there yet.
As someone that's trying to increase your likability, I think you should consider taking Marlins Man up on his offer, because by comparison, you are more likable.
Thank you, Mike. Your 10%'s in the mail.
For what it's worth, I was going to say the exact opposite. If there's anyone you should not go to this game with, it's Marlins Man.
I think I'd like to set that up on John Henry's bus. I'd like to make it a trip. Let's hope that they get playoff games against the Atlanta Braves. I started this conversation earlier, and I'd be curious Samson's opinion on this, because Greg Cody was arguing yesterday how unfair it is to have to go to Philadelphia. I'm like, yeah, that's the reward Philadelphia gets, 3 games at home for making the playoffs. But
for being better than you.
For being better than you by even a half a game. And so that's the reward. We all know the stakes. That's how we're doing it. But I thought of that as an advantage, and then I thought, what was the greater advantage that I'd prefer to have if I was given my choice? You can have home field advantage, or you can go in as the lesser team. No, you're the lesser team, but I'm going to give you best of 3, which is maximum random, which is the Rangers will beat the Rays at home because whatever. Sometimes you get shut out. And
Rangers are really good.
Yeah, I know. I'm not, but they were bad the last half.
It's a 2-game series.
They were bad the last half of the season. My question to you, genuinely, Samson, is what's a greater advantage as a lesser team? To have a 3-game series that allows you to play on the randomness of I can win 2 of 3 against a better team than me, or just home field advantage?
I'd rather be on the road for a 1-game playoff game, a 1-game playoff series. That's where the true random happens. Because in 1 game, anything can happen, and you can beat anybody anywhere. To go on the road and win 2 out of 3 is a tough thing to do. So I'd rather, the reason why they made it this way is they needed to give an advantage and incentive for teams not to be average. Scott Boras came out after the expanded wild card and said now everybody's in a rush to the middle. And so what the compromise to the union was, all right, we're going to give the first round wild card no travel, easier for players, but you want to get home field advantage because you get all 3 games. And there's no other, I don't know of any example like that anywhere in any sport. And maybe I'm wrong, I could be wrong about soccer, where there could be an entire series and it's all in one park, a non-neutral park, no less. Mm-hmm. So I would much rather be on the road for 1 game, and I fought for that because I think the networks like it better, and I've spoken to Skipper about that. Elimination games, that's where it's at. Today's games are elimination games. There's 4 of them. Yesterday's were not. I would expect ratings and attendance to be better today because there's a possibility of teams going home. And then tomorrow, if there's a game 3, then that's like a game 7.
David, I don't disagree, but it's unfair for a division winner to have a 1-game scenario with a wild card team. You can't do that to them. You just can't do it. 1 game is too random.
So that's what owners said, Stugotz. They said that we're not going to play 162, we're not going to win our division, and then 24 hours later be eliminated. But this compromise is no better. The Brewers could be eliminated within 12 hours, and they will have been done. Won a division, and they're out in 2 games if, in fact, the Diamondbacks with Zach Gallen, the former Marlin, can beat them. But there's no solution to that. There's always scenarios where you go through a regular season. What about football? You go through an entire grind of a season through 17 games, and then you lose 1 game in the first round of the playoffs, and you're home within that week. So that's part of sports. I always argued against that, but owners forget 23 votes needed to have that happen. I couldn't even get 10 votes because owners wanted the opportunity to play more games after such a long season.
I want to switch gears briefly before we get to your review and cover another local story, which was Jimmy Butler's media day appearance that the Heat socials had fun with. Then came a report from Michael Wallace, who used to be based out of Miami, was part of ESPN's Miami Heat beat before relocating to Memphis, where he said 98% of the Heat front office wasn't down with what Jimmy Butler did. It was a weird percentage, yeah.
98.9.
Yeah.
17 of them, so
yeah.
what, that's...
He said that this isn't in line with Heat
Trident
culture.
sentence?
It's not in line with Heat culture. It's to look at me, and I was curious what your thoughts are, because I'm pretty sure Pat Riley views that and doesn't get it at all. But Jeremy and I were talking before the show that we actually think Jimmy Butler did the Miami Heat organization a big-time solid by taking all the attention and putting it on himself rather than their failings this postseason and offseason.
Absolutely. I mean, him coming in and being emo Jimmy during media day was a huge distraction from all of the other questions about Damian Lillard and Tyler Hero and Kyle Lowry not speaking and all of the other storylines that we could have been focused on. Instead, I was coming in and doing piano covers of emo songs.
So I've got secondhand information, which means it was not directly told to me, but directly told to me by someone who's a part of it. And I absolutely believe this person 100%. Jimmy Butler and the Heat, it's not a love affair by any stretch between the front office and Jimmy. Jimmy is a player who is, like many superstars, can be selfish and he plays by his own rules, and it can be frustrating to Pat and to others who are into discipline and into togetherness and into what goes here goes there. So I think they look at Jimmy, I think they think it's tired, but he's so good, and that's the problem. When you've got a player like Pudge Rodriguez, who's the biggest pain in the neck ever and leaves your team in the middle of a year to say F you to our hitting coach, to go to his own hitting coach and then lies about it, and the players are having a hard time with him in the clubhouse, or a Hanley Ramirez, but then you win, it's pretty hard to argue. You don't have to love them off the court, but you love them on the court. And I think that's the case with Jimmy. I don't think there's a lot of love off the court, but boy, is he a special player on the court.
Okay, but let's talk about some of the separation here, because I think it matters. 98.9 would be 9 out of 10 people in the Heat front office is what we're roughly doing.
Jeremy's pretty plugged in. We know people in that organization. I think that's overestimating.
It's a slightly high number.
By quite a bit. I mean, especially considering everyone kind of had fun with it.
Okay, but I'd go one step further, okay, because this is not hard to understand from any vantage point. 100% of 100% of Pat Riley doesn't like the idea of somebody showing up at his sacred cathedral of military learning and making a costume party out of it. Like, I have not talked to
Damian Lillard.
Yeah, exact counterpoint. Land the whale, and then you don't need people causing distractions.
Agreed. Agreed and understood.
Told you he was failing the city.
To me, though, the best part of this is, of course, the 78-year-old guy is going to get battered around by, well, when I brought Shaq in here, because my move for the last 15 years is I'll try and get the giant guys and keep people carrying for 20 years, when sometimes Sacramento goes those 20 years without anything. Orlando goes those 20 years. I'll keep getting the guys. So it goes Shaq. And Shaq comes in, and he's his own economy. He's not Heat culture. He's Shaq culture. He's got his own people. He shows Wade some bad things about what it is to be a star before Wade realizes what it is to be a star. I'll bring you LeBron. I'll bring you Bosh. And then I'll get you Jimmy Butler. And at the end of this run for both of them, Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley, there's 2 generations of gulf between them and how they think about sports and what media day is supposed to mean. Like, of course, there's going to be conflict there.
Are you arguing for the sanctity of media day,
He
where they
loves media day,
bank
Mike.
the entirety of hot seconds with Jax?
I'm sure Riley didn't like Shaq's squirt gun either, okay? Just deal with it.
Agreed. Yes, of course. The stars rule.
Why is he arriving with a squirt gun?
I know.
Big truck.
But you guys say yes, but of course the stars rule. And Lillard didn't, because the organizations have taken the power back.
Can you explain why there is any hate toward Pat Riley and concern that he doesn't get the whale when all he does is get you guys these? All he did was get you rings as the most successful
LeBron
franchise
did.
next to the Warriors.
They've lost 3 consecutive finals. Getting there is a massive achievement. They were in the play-in last year and went on one of the more unpredictable runs in the history. No, I'm not hating Pat Riley. I love Pat Riley. but I am presently criticizing Pat Riley, and I think you can operate in a world where you do both. You respect the man, what he's done with this organization as an executive down here in Miami. It's been brilliant. But it's not exactly nitpicking to say he's missed out on his last 8 superstar pursuits, and the Miami Heat are worse off for it.
8?
Wait, who's 8?
Name them.
Kevin Durant twice, Donovan Mitchell,
Right.
Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler the first go-around, Russell Westbrook twice,
Okay.
Bradley Beal,
All right.
James Harden twice. That's 10.
Those all sound like guys I really
done.
want on the Miami Heat.
By the way, you're welcome is what Pat Riley should say to you. Which of those players, maybe Durant the first time, maybe Butler the first time, but I think Butler was better for the Heat the second time because he was a little more mature. But all of that said, are you so sure that Lillard is the difference maker on the Heat team? Are you 100%
I think
sure
Damian
that at
Lillard-
that money he's going
Yeah.
to bring you a title?
Well,
I
he
think
is on
Damian-
Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think Damian Lillard strolls into Biscayne, and he's the best player. He's the best player on the team.
Do they win a title? That's
you can
what he's
say
asking
playoff
about.
Jimmy, and I can counter-argue that with playoff Jimmy looked bad as finals Jimmy, and he's just getting older. And I know Damian
was
Lillard's
hurt and
33,
tired.
but I think Damian Lillard strolls into a team that made the NBA Finals and makes them better, a team that really struggled offensively, struggled to keep up with the Denver Nuggets offensively. I think he solves a lot of that, and now he goes to a rival that you upset, they get better, and Boston stays aggressive, knows that their roster isn't good enough to beat Miami. What do? They flip the script, and they go after somebody that you were interested in, and you get your lunch money taken from you. I think you can criticize Pat Riley's failings this offseason and not come
What
across
could he
as a
have
hater.
done, though? The Blazers got a way better package for Lillard than what Miami was offering.
could have
Miami
done-
maybe they could have gone out and facilitated a 3-way.
That's what
but
they could have
the
done.
assets the Blazers got way better than what the Heat were offering.
That's what they could have done, and we only know the post spin on what the Heat supposedly offered, where they just found 3 draft picks and Jovic hiding under the couch. Because before, the person that I trust the most when it comes to Heat reporting was telling me it was Tyler Hero, take it or leave it, and they haven't spoken in months. I'm going to say it's not too much of a stretch to say they should have done better there.
There is more information on that, though, that I had not considered in some of what my information was on this, which is the Heat were legitimately stunned that there wasn't back and forth of any kind there.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. They drew a hard line.
No, but after months of Portland's not dealing with us and Portland maintaining that stance throughout, because Portland, as far as I know, never got to the point of knowing what the assets in Brooklyn and Utah were available in exchange for Hero. That the Phoenix part of the deal also fit with Miami and Lowry, that part of the deal worked, and then the other part of the deal, Portland never heard or entertained. And then after that, the hard line was drawn. The hard line was drawn after it was drawn first by Portland.
Okay.
There was no communication.
And I want to keep my eye on the ball here because they also lost out on Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal would have helped this basketball team, and Bradley Beal could have been had for peanuts, and they decided against that.
It's not peanuts. What's his salary?
Excuse me, again, I don't care about the luxury tax, and I shouldn't.
Because you don't run the team.
I shouldn't care.
He's
I'm
a fan, David.
and I see other owners spending into the luxury tax to maintain competitors. I have a championship window that is shrinking by the day, and I don't care about Mickey Arrison's financials. We've gone into it. He got the team for nothing.
I'm so sorry that you're talking into the wind, and I'm sorry if you don't want to hear this. Mickey Arison, look where Carnival stock is. Look at what he's been doing to prop up the Heat, and Mickey Arison will tell you, if any of you know him, the Heat do not make money every year. He puts money into that team every year. And for him not to want to go over the tax when he's delivered to South Florida,
I don't want to do that. I don't want to
to
do this again where you argue on behalf of it doesn't appreciate as an asset until I sell it for $5 billion in a couple of years.
I'm not arguing that, Dan. I'm saying that Mickey Arison's the best owner, and this is hard for me to say. It sucks. I couldn't stand him when I was there because all he did was take attention away from the Marlins with all the signings and all the championships and playing into June when we were supposed to have the calendar to ourselves, basically handing us off with a week to go until training camp when all of the writers and cameras would go to Dolphins training camp. So no love lost with the Miami Heat or their front office because they're that good. Mickey Arison should go down in history, and I assume he is, as the greatest owner in the history of our town sports. Does anyone dispute that?
No. Bruce Sherman, close second?
No. Joe Robbie may be second.